The Newington Town Planning Zoning Commission meeting, February 13th. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary, read the roll call.
Chairman Aida, Commissioner Camillo.
Here.
Commissioner Claffey. Commissioner Fox.
Yeah.
Commissioner Payne.
Here.
Commissioner Sobieski.
Here.
Commissioner Woods. Commissioner Vitalica. Commissioner Braverman.
Here.
Commissioner Giangrave.
I'm going to see Commissioner Braverman for Commissioner Woods. He's out tonight.
Yes.
Approval of the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the agenda was amended yesterday and filed with the town clerk because the developer of the Newington Ridge Preserve withdrew his request for bond reduction. So the agenda was amended to reflect just Newington Ridge Preserve, so that the commissioners, if they want to have a discussion among themselves or with the developer, he said he would be here tonight to answer their questions and have a discussion. But the agenda was already amended to take bond reduction off the agenda. But I do have one other item for tonight. The applicant for new business item B, the site plan modification at 94 Holmes Road, the applicant had a conflict with scheduling for tonight, so he asked that be postponed to the next meeting. So I asked that new business item B be removed from the agenda.
So A, just bring it into discussion, or?
So when we get to new business, we get to Newington Ridge Preserve, yes. Like I said, I believe the developer will be here. The town engineer is here as requested to answer any questions that the commissioners may have on his comments, his thoughts on the new road, the method of construction. So he's here to answer any questions or have a discussion about that if the commission wants.
Okay.
So again, I recommend that you delete new business item B.
Zoning Enforcement Officer's report.
Before we get into the ZEO report, I have two items I'd like to start off with. One being a temporary sign application. If you want to put the photo up there. It's a request for a temporary coming soon banner consisting of 32 square feet for O'Reilly Auto Parts. The site is located at 3443 Berlin Turnpike. And the proposal is based off the approved and future building frontage of 120 feet, which meets our zoning regulations of 1:1. Because the building is under construction, the banner will utilize a wooden stand-up frame as shown in the photo. The applicant is requesting the banner for 2 periods of 25 days from February 19th to March 15th, and also March 17th to April 11th, in order to comply with the 25-day timeframe requirement. I recommend approval of this application with the condition that the banner remain outside of the front setback as required by the temporary sign regulations.
Okay. Any discussion on that? No, everybody's okay?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
All right. Next item I wanted to get into is I wrote a memo to the commissioners about long-term stays on the Berlin Turnpike, or more specifically motel hotels. And I just wanted to see if anybody had any comments or wanted to discuss that.
Is this part of the task force?
It's not part of the task force. On the task force, we discussed that among other items such as hoarding. But I did utilize the task force in my research to develop the memo.
Did you utilize the town attorney?
I have not. No, I have not.
Is the town attorney part of the task force?
He is not.
Is there no lawyer part of the task force?
Commissioner Payne, could you pull the microphone closer to you so the tape picks up? Thanks.
The task force is made up of various departments in the town, and it's not. I don't think that the legal advice is really needed at that level.
Well, you mentioned the legality of certain things, so when you
Right.
mention the legality of certain things, I would think
Sure.
that you would consult the town attorney. One question I have is, there's some places here which are actually advertising apartments. I'm wondering if you figured out how to address that.
Well,
Supposed to be apartments.
right.
And
I
there's
think
signs.
enforcing efficiency stay signs would be in keeping with our zoning regulations. So I think that's something we can enforce. I think going back to your comment about the town attorney, I think that there's a little bit more research needed into the legal aspects of this enforcement and long-term stays. I've just heard from the various departments in the task force that the legal aspect is really the biggest aspect of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now to the CEO report. Did anybody have any questions on the contents of the report?
Andrew, I just wanted to complain about 174 Francis Avenue. So several of the neighbors have been calling. We've been going through this deal long before you were here. It's now he's parking on a railroad property, so I just want everybody on this board to understand why the complaint was filed. I see several neighbors here, I'm sure you're going to see it in the public participation. Thank you.
You're welcome. That is something I'm working on, and he's coming up on his the end of his 30 days that was given, which was not in this report. It came after, and that ends on February 14th. I'm in discussions now with the town attorney on some alternative avenues rather than our traditional land lien, which hasn't given us much success in the past.
And to the Chairman, Andrew.
Commissioner Fox, could you pull the mic a little bit closer to you? Thanks.
Usually better at that. Also, I guess, almost the same thing at 366 Maple Hill Avenue. You gave him 30 days from January 10th, and so you're a little bit over that. Has there been any
Yes.
action?
I met the homeowner on site on Monday. He had 4 vehicles, all of which were registered at that time, but that's something I will monitor considering the history.
Okay, how about that flatbed trailer? That registered as a commercial trailer?
I don't know that it is. That's something I'll have to look into.
Because I passed by today, and I think there were more than 4 vehicles. The only one I was able to, there's only one I saw plates on. As far as the rest, I don't know, but I hope you will keep an eye on this.
I will.
This is just as, shall I say, it's just as bad as his commercial property.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public participation. Any from the public have anything? It's not on the agenda.
Good evening. My name is Peter Hoffman, and I'm at 32 Francis Avenue in Newington. And I'd like to tag on a little information on the comments made by the 2 commissioners to my left concerning 174 Francis Avenue. I'd like to find out if anything has actually been done to make him come into compliance with the court order that was made, such as having the blight officer go on site to make sure that the number of cars is maintained as to what was agreed upon, and as you drive by it, it doesn't look like it is because there are cars right up to the very beginning of the fenced-in area of his property. So I'd like to know, first of all, has the blight officer been on site to maintain the number of cars as according to the legal document that he signed that he agreed to?
I have not, and I haven't received a blight complaint or a complaint about the actual physical business relating to the lawsuit. What the complaint that I had was all of the storage of the vehicles on the railroad property, which I am in discussions with the town attorney right now to determine what our next action will be there.
Yeah, there are 11 unregistered vehicles on that property right now. An enclosed trailer, which hasn't moved for at least a month. He's also got his flatbed trailer there, and he has had it up to a quantity of 12 unregistered vehicles. And my question is, what gave him the authority to use that property? Did he get okay from Middlesex? Because they were using that as a staging area for the busway.
I am not certain if he had authority. He gave me some type of response that he had authority to use it dating back to the 1920s, but his explanation wasn't exactly clear. And so I'm discussing with the town attorney what to do next in relation to the lawsuit, and trying to do something other than our typical land lien fine, which hasn't worked in the past.
Well, he's got so many days to meet his 30-day requirement from what I just heard. What happens after that 30 days? Is he being fined? Is he being towed? What's going on with that property if he does not clear it out within the 30-day time frame that was, I guess you sent him a letter about it.
Yes, and so his 30-day time frame ends tomorrow, the 14th.
He's going to be busy.
Yeah. So our typical process would be to do a land lien, but I'm trying to look into some other avenues of how to enforce this. Just discussing with the town attorney about the previous lawsuit, as well as some other avenues that might be available to us, either the railroad or something else that might be more effective.
Well, it doesn't seem like the railroad is really that interested in it because I've contacted the railroad police myself, and they have done nothing about it. Like to find out if the town has contacted them and see if they are getting any more response from it, because this has been going on for quite a few years, and it's way beyond what's really necessary. And through the petition that we had a couple of years ago, a whole lot of people in our neighborhood really are getting tired of him flaunting his inability to comply. And if we don't have a blight ordinance that has any teeth to it, maybe we should just rewrite it or somehow make it enforceable. Tow him. Tow the vehicles. If he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing according to what he signed, just tow the vehicles. I'm sure somebody would come over and tow him.
That's something I will be looking into. In addition, I don't have a blight complaint specifically for that property, but that's...
An ongoing complaint. He's supposed to stay within X number of cars on his property.
Let me just jump in for a second. There's actually a blight process in Newington with a blight enforcement officer and a zoning enforcement process with a zoning enforcement officer. It happens to be the same person who does both jobs, but they're two different silos. And the way the blight ordinance was worked out by the town council a number of years ago, the way it was negotiated, and it was a negotiated ordinance, was that it has to be complaint driven. A complaint has to be filed with the town manager's office, which then gets sent to the blight enforcement officer for the blight ordinance to be enforced. And I guess what Mr. Armstrong is saying is that no neighbor has filed a blight complaint. So, but I expect by tomorrow morning, a blight complaint will have been filed with the town manager's office. My crystal ball is telling me that.
You never know. It'd be amazing if something like that happened, wouldn't it?
something, ask.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, through the chairman, planner. Is there kind of a statute of limitations on the blight ordinance? In other words, if somebody makes a blight complaint to the town manager, forwarded to Andrew here, is there a certain amount of time that the CEO would have to either, take a look and then enforce it? Does it expire at any time? In other words, if these, somebody made a blight or complaint, such as maybe Mr. Hoffman, and nothing had been done, then he would as far as I can see, he would necessarily, if you want something done about it, make another blight complaint.
Well, I wouldn't say another because there hasn't been one, but as soon as one gets filed, it will be acted upon by Mr. Armstrong.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a form to fill out in order to
Oh, yes.
address one?
Yes, there's a
And
form.
where would that be obtained?
The town manager's office.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm Cara Santoro at 93 Francis Avenue. And I guess I'm going to start with a question I didn't know I was going to have, but we were here a couple of years ago with the same issue. Nothing ever got resolved. So why do we have to file something again if you haven't even, what's been resolved?
Oh, no, not at all. There was a court order that resulted from the petition that the neighborhood signed a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's that court order that Mr. Armstrong is working from in contacting the owner and informing him that he is in violation of that court order.
So then why do we need another blight?
Well, it's not that we need also to use the blight mechanism, but if that's another means, if that's another tool in our kit, then let's use that tool also.
Okay, so I had the same thought that Mr. Hoffman had. Why doesn't somebody just tow the cars away? I mean, what's behind that fence is not only a hazard for children, people could be sleeping in those cars. There's so much theft in our neighborhood and the adjoining towns that border us. And don't tell me people don't go in there to maybe try to steal things. What if somebody gets hurt? The fire department couldn't even help someone if they had to. And not to mention the way it looks. I won't even give people directions to my house to come from Willard Avenue. I give it from Main Street. Because when you come around there, it not only looks like a junkyard, it is operating as a junkyard. I have never seen one car repaired there. I've never seen anything done. The only thing that there is junk cars that aren't registered that he's selling parts to. So what does that qualify as? My other question is, can you give me a dollar amount of how much money the taxpayers have spent on the same case? Does anybody have any idea what we've spent?
Well, no, I would say no one has any idea, but that number is probably, could be calculated.
Yeah, and it would be nice to know it because I'm sure it's a lot of money. And the police, every time the police get called, you're taking them away from another part of town. I'm sure you've noticed there are multiple people running red lights, stop signs, speeding. There was another accident at Cedar Street and Willard just the other day. There's been accidents at Fenn Road, and there's no police stopping these people because they're probably on Francis Avenue looking at these junk cars that don't run. So I have another couple of suggestions. I think if we tow the cars, we probably should tow them to Church Street, Royal Villas, Main Street, New Britain Avenue, park them in front of your houses, park them in front of your neighbors' houses. As you tow them there, leave them, make a junkyard of your street, and then see what happens next time we come back here. And I'm just ashamed to say that we've done this how much and nothing's been resolved, and we have to live looking at this junk every day. I mean, I'm just ashamed of what's going on here because, in my opinion, nothing has been solved. And then we have to deal with it, and now it's encroached onto the Amtrak. We can't deal with that. It's not our property. Now we have the blight issue, and we have to file a petition. And just when is it going to end? You know, that's my question. You're operating a business that you're not legally supposed to operate, and no one stopped it in 10 years.
Oh, no, he's legally operating a business. The problem is he's going beyond the boundaries of what he's allowed to do.
But he's not operating a repair shop. He's operating a junkyard. And I don't think that's zoned as a junkyard. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I'm sure if he were here, he would say it's not junk, it's cars that he's working on, it's cars that he's cannibalizing, it's cars that he's fixing up. He would say it's not a junkyard, and
Well, then you really need to just
in the eye of the beholder.
stay off from work, sit there and see what goes on. Because I see it every morning when I leave, every night when I come home, on the weekends. There's no car repairs going there. It's he's going in, taking off a part to sell it maybe on the internet to somebody he knows or whoever, however he sells these things. But that is not operating as a repair shop. It's a junkyard on Francis Avenue. And it might as well go on the internet advertised like that because that's what it is. So I'm just hoping that after this meeting, we'll file what we need to file and somebody get on top of it. And I'm just terribly disappointed in the town attorney, I'm disappointed in this committee, and I'm disappointed that nothing's gone on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I think our staff should answer that because I think that's an untrue statement,
Which statement?
that nothing was resolved because it was brought to a resolution and he complied with everything. He's gotten out of hand again, but he did comply for a period of time. Am I correct?
That's correct, yes. He was relatively in compliance for quite a while. Something happened recently such that I guess he now feels that he can violate the regulations and the court order with impunity. But that led to a notice of violation that was sent to him last month by the zoning enforcement officer. And he has not complied with it, and so the CEO will be meeting with the town attorney the next day or so, because unfortunately, this is the way it is in America. The good guys have to follow due process, the bad guys don't. That's unfortunately the way it is. We have to follow due process.
Mr. Chairman, one last point for, Mr. Chairman, for the staff. On that court case too, it was talked about whether it was junk or not junk, a junkyard. And it was found by the judge that it was not a junkyard. And he was operating a legal business there behind the fence. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just say something? That might be what the judge decided. It's not reality. So I don't know what else we can do, but
What's bothering you behind the fence? It's the cars parked in front. Is that correct, overnight?
that's part of it. But if I broke the law, you'd put me in jail probably. If I ran a stop sign, if I drove drunk, if I did whatever. It's not kind of you're going to put me in jail or kind of
What
solve
law
it.
are you talking about?
But what I'm saying, yes, because he's not running a repair shop.
That was
And there
discussed.
are more cars in there than what was ever agreed to when he purchased the place.
Have you been in there and counted the cars? How do you know this?
Because you can see them, and you can see them right up
Yeah, but
against
how
the
do you
fence
how do you see the rest of it?
with a drone. Go ahead and look yourself.
So, well, that's up to the zoning official if he wants to go in there and do an inspection and everything, but he did
Because
comply
it's
at
a
one
hazard.
time.
It's a fire hazard. It's hazard for children. Homeless can be
Children aren't
sleeping
supposed
there.
to be
People
in
can.
there. They're not supposed to be in there playing around.
This is
It's a
going
fenced-
nowhere. Obviously,
it's a fenced
it
in.
sounds to me like you're on his side.
I'm not on his side. I'm a reasonable person, and it's a fenced-in business that he's operating
A
legally.
fenced-in business
Okay.
not operating as what it's registered as.
Well,
Then it gets out of hand, and that's why. If it was registered as a repair shop, you wouldn't have 80 cars in there.
But he's not registered as a repair shop. He doesn't have a license to do repairs.
So what
He has a
what
license
does-
to sell cars.
Okay, so he's not selling cars. He's selling parts of cars that are not
he puts
registered.
cars together and he sells the cars.
Okay, well, you can split hairs any way you want.
I'm not-
We're the citizens, we're the taxpayers.
Maybe the staff can put all the records together and give them the legal records from the court cases so that they can see. And he did comply. Is he out of compliance now? Possibly. I haven't been over there, okay? I'm not on anybody's side, but you can't be ridiculous and say that he's operating illegally when he's not operating illegally.
Well, when we were here a couple of years ago, that's what came up, and the same thing's going on now that went on then, so what changed? Then I think somebody needs to get there, put your boots on, go out, take a look, find out what's going on, and take care of the citizens who are the taxpayers, who are the good guys. You know, that's what I'm saying. I've said enough. We're just totally disgusted,
So
and something needs to
if
get
you
done.
could just clarify something for me, is he leaving vehicles overnight in front of his business?
Yes, from time to time.
Okay.
Yes, and I would say as recent as maybe a month or so ago, I saw it, and I'm like, okay, and then it gets worse, and then he puts them away, and then now they're over in Amtrak, so you
Thank you.
need to go by there more, but I still need to say we're the taxpayers, and we're the ones that really should get taken care of. And if someone doesn't like the
And
town,
that's
they
our,
need to
our
leave.
town staff, so talk to the town manager, our staff, our zoning enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
not the building committee, not the committee members.
Okay, well, I'll be happy. I'm sure the rest behind me will be happy to attend a meeting with them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through the chairman, Mr. Planner, if I'm not mistaken, and you were here at the time when the original application was approved. I remember I was on the commission at the time. We were in the auditorium, and we did not approve a repair shop. We did not approve a junkyard. As a matter of fact, the chairman at the time had mentioned that he did not want this to, be operated as a junkyard. What we approved was a wholesaler location, I would say.
Correct.
Okay? We expressly ordered, that, he not be, pulling power steering pumps, pulling engines, this, that, or the other thing. So right away, if he's doing repairs, he's operating illegally as far as I'm concerned. So in addition to Commissioner Payne's request, I would appreciate if you had the staff look up the original application, the minutes of the meeting at which it was approved, and how it was approved, and the certificate of approval, if you will. Thank you. I hope you can have that for the next meeting.
When he originally came, it was no repairs. Then he came back years later to repair the cars that he was selling, and that was the stipulation in there.
Is that, I
Well,
remember, is that in
We
the
talked
court
about
order?
it back during the court case.
Okay.
When you say original, as I recall, it happened before I got here, his original approval was modified after a while. And then there's the stipulated judgment, which is now the law of the land, which is in a sense a third thing. Which, do you want all of them? Do you want the one that's current or the first
Okay.
one?
We've already been advised or apprised of the court order and the stipulations. I'd like to see things before that. Like I said, the minutes from when the original application was approved.
Well, again, there were several applications, so maybe what you mean is the one that was in effect
The final.
before the final one before the court case of a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Which would be around, I think, 2001.
that sounds right.
No later than 2005.
Yeah, because I think that's what was referenced in the earlier zoning enforcement action.
There, in the stipulation. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else from the public? Thank you. Approval of minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any remarks by the commissioners? Okay. There's no public hearing. We have new business.
So, Mr. Chairman, I see that the applicant is present, so he might want to make a few remarks, and then the commissioners may have some questions for him, and the town engineer is also here.
Good evening, Michael Massimino, 15 Holesley Avenue, Branford, Connecticut, regarding Newington Ridge Preserve. So, my original application or request a month or so ago was for a bond reduction after we replaced the base and replaced the binder. There was obviously correspondence that everybody saw with concerns from the homeowners. Once I saw that, I requested from Mr. Minor just to pull my request for a bond reduction. I'm going to be meeting with the homeowners on the 28th at one of their residences to try to address the different concerns that were on their memo, accomplish to get some of the stuff completed. I don't necessarily want to have to recite everything that needs to get done, but I'm going to try to get as much done that we can. The piles of stone, the dirt, I have to meet with, 2 of the neighbors regarding the drainage and the grading issues behind lot 1 and 2. So I have intentions to meet, listen, come up with a plan, do it, and then once, they're satisfied with some of that stuff, then re-request for the bond reduction. So
You have a punch list from the town engineer or from the homeowners?
So I have the memo from the homeowners. The town engineer, there's obviously been a lot of talk about the road, the new binder that we put in. As far as a punch list for everything, no, we haven't done that. I need to establish a punch list on the overall site outside of the immediate concerns that everybody expressed. They also need to sit down with him and go line by line on what we feel is completed or what's not on the original bond. So I do need to do that.
Commissioners?
Michael, do you plan on, after you get this plan on coming in with the association and filing a new plan for a modified plan to eliminate certain things and get that wetlands thing taken care of?
Yes.
Thank you.
Stanley?
Quick question, actually several. You're going to, you just said in back of lots 1 and 2, you're going to correct the drainage issue there?
Correct.
What are you going to do about the rest of the lots, like where that foundation is that's poured, that's not, was fenced, it's now down? That's a liability for somebody.
I didn't even realize, honestly, I haven't been to the site recently. I'll put the fence back up. My intention is to hopefully get going again, to build this place out. Time has just flown by. We've started talking a year and a half ago. I know that there's a lot of frustration. Quite frankly, there's frustration on my side. We did everything we can. Maybe it wasn't perceived to be in the most prompt order, but we spent a lot of time, quite frankly, money, and had no expectation we were going to be digging a road out 12 inches down the entire way. We did it. Weather went on, time went on. Now we're being scrutinized that it shouldn't have been paved because compaction, but we were also at the time of, we're going to hit winter months. So there's definitely a lot to be discussed. I do want to get the place back off the ground. We're obviously now in the heart of the winter, but if a fence is down or if there's some immediate concerns, we could address that immediately.
And excuse me, I think there was some question about where the sedimentation pond is. In the back there was supposed to be some type of fencing so kids don't go in there and get hurt or get,
Well, there was concern, there wasn't any fencing required on the original plan. There was concern.
That's correct.
From the association, so I think that's going to be part of our discussion and also part of our submission for a new site modification with the adding and the subtracting.
And when I had walked the site originally, I noticed there was one vacant lot where there's supposed to be a yard drain. Instead of being in the center of the swale where it should be, it was up off the side. Are you going to correct that eventually?
Yeah, I'm not even aware specifically what you're talking about, but
There's an open lot, it was on the left. I think there was one house that was built, I guess a demonstration house, and there was one next to it. Then there was an open lot. I think Ms. Rocco's house was over there. If you look, you'll find out there's a lateral that comes straight up. Instead of being down in the center where the rest of them are in the swale, this is like way up and over here.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Yeah, because I know when I walked that with Commissioner Fox, it was a hot summer's day, and I had taken a small stone and dropped it in there, and I heard water at the, so I know it's not draining correctly.
Okay.
That would be of concern to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the other issue I have is what's left in the bond money, everything in that project would be completed. Would I be correct? I know this bond money will not only be used for the road, but also for the,
bond money now.
excuse me?
We're not talking about the bond money now.
I'm asking a general question. I'm not talking about, I'm asking, would this cover all of the other issues that are out there? That's all I want to know.
The bond money is for the list that the engineer came up with.
Okay.
Isn't it?
I rest my case.
Well,
Through the
I
chairman.
don't know, ask Steph. Maybe I'm wrong, Stanley. Maybe I'm wrong.
I just, my only concern, Commissioner Payne, is that I want to make sure that these people have some type of remedy that satisfies everybody. I don't want to see the guy go bankrupt, and I don't want to see these people get hurt. That's all I'm asking. So I know we've talked about the bond money for the road, which was, I think, $64 or $74, $84,000, whatever it was to put the road in, with the binder course and the top top course. Now, my question comes down is what about the additional things that are within the area that need to be addressed? Does that come out of this bond money?
I mean, I could answer, so, as Mr. Payne said, so the original schedule values that was put together, it's all line items. Initially, when we originally bought this project, we didn't have intentions of ripping the binder up and then putting new base. Obviously, time went on, things deteriorated. I didn't argue the fact, and we did it. Obviously, there's a lot of focus on that, but as it relates to the bond and the schedule values, everything is quantified. It's street trees, it's square footage, it's linear footage. So I think it's a matter of re-quantifying what needs to be completed, what we're gonna complete. Obviously, it's all a function of if I'm asking for a bond reduction, then it's a discussion. If I complete more items, then it's less of a discussion. So I think it's pretty easily to be quantified. As far as the concerns of the road and compaction, I do need to get my engineers involved to discuss that particular point. But the schedule values you guys should have, and it quantifies items that were completed, or if they're not completed, they have a value associated with it.
One other quick question, is this, and I know you don't have a copy, you can look at mine if you want, is this the schedule values that you put in or the town?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the schedule values that was approved by the town and by the board when we put up the bond.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fox?
Through the chairman, Mr. Massimino, this has been going on for a few years before I even was appointed to this commission. One of the first days nights I was on the I was at a meeting as an alternate. It was the first time I met Ms. Rocco and Ms. Chernikoff and the rest. And even up till then, there didn't seem to be any satisfaction given the homeowners association from you. And since then, which was about a year and a half, 2 years ago or so, no offense, but I really haven't seen that much aggressiveness or that much of you wanting to complete the project. You've put us off a couple of meetings last fall, and the base and binder that you had to replace, was done at the last minute and real quick. And right now, if according to the photos here and according to what Commissioner Sobieski and I see when we drive down there, it's already falling apart. So how you can even ask for a bond reduction at this time, in the first place, really is beyond me. And so I'm speaking. Do I have the floor?
Yes, but he's
Thank
not
you.
asking for a bond reduction right now.
I know he's not. I'm just suggesting that to ask for a bond reduction in the first place. He did ask for a bond reduction, and since has rescinded that request. And I don't blame you, because to me it doesn't look like you've done much of what you're supposed to have done. And I'm really hoping that in your meeting with the homeowners association that you come to some agreement between you and them, and that you'll be held to that agreement and get these things done the way they're supposed to be. Then we can talk about a bond reduction.
So I just want to comment on a few things. I mean, with all due respect, number one, there's no secret. The project's been stalled as it relates to vertical construction, so that's a known fact.
I haven't even talked about vertical construction.
No, understood. When there was a lot of concern when we had the rock truck in the back and we had fill piles in the back, and you guys brought us in, yes, it might have been a year and a half, but as far as I'm concerned, there was a substantial amount of work done. We did go fast on a lot of things, some things that were beyond our control as it relates to subcontractors and, quite frankly, getting the cash to do it, all came into play. But when you guys called me in, at this point, it's been so long, I don't remember the exact month, there was the fill pile. I mean, I personally was in a machine with 20 trucks getting rid of the fill pile. It was the biggest concern. We did it. What also has gotten forgotten was I hired an engineer regarding the whole issue behind lots 1 and 2 to come up with a new grading plan. It went in, it got approved. We didn't discuss it with the adjacent homeowners where it affected. It got appealed, you know, so there was a lot of things that did go on that we were diligent about. Maybe we didn't satisfy everybody, but we pulled back. I mean, again, I'm not really here to argue. I want to have a relationship eventually, you know, with all the homeowners. I want everything to be satisfied. There's definitely hurdles until we get there, but it's not like we're in the same spot as a year and a half ago. It might seem like it's a long time, but quite frankly, it's been over, you know, 6 figures of getting this thing from where it was to where it is, and that's done. Maybe the binder course has issues, maybe it doesn't. I'm not even disputing that at this point, but my point is, I think it's unfair to say that I haven't. Maybe everyone would like it to go a lot faster, but within our resources and with our means and without asking for a bond reduction, we did get a lot of work done, in my opinion. So, I mean, I guess it's a matter of opinion, but I could write you down all the facts that went on from then until now.
Well, if you say so. By the way, that the issue about the dirt piles in back, that was around the middle of March last year. So, and you know, I just don't see it. The grading in back of lots 1 and 2, it looked like you did something, but I happened to be back there. I don't know, just after one of the rainy days, and
I mean, it's a mess, right?
A mess.
No questions asked. It's a mess right now, but when we eliminated all the fill, we diligently graded off, we put in erosion mats, but we also had to submit, if you don't recall, back to, I believe it was this board, for a new grading plan. And that was put together by Bennett and Smiles, and we did have to do additional things. We didn't do those additional things because we needed the site plan to be approved. And quite frankly, it's a good thing that we didn't, because it got approved and then it got appealed. So we then pulled back, you know, so it's, I mean, there has been things getting done. Maybe it's not getting done in the speed everybody would like to see it, but I'm here and I'm, you know.
Well, I certainly hope you can square it away with the homeowners association, and we can, you know, get this thing out of the way.
Understood.
You know, successfully.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Craig?
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Maybe the homeowners association might have something.
Homeowners have anything at this time?
I wasn't prepared to speak. Janet Chernikoff, 4 Deming Farm Drive. As far as what was done behind lots 1 and 2, and yes, Michael, you did have Michael Bennett here. The one meeting I went to for Wetlands Commission to discuss this, it was a totally different plan than the next meeting. The homeowners were not consulted. It destroyed the backyards of lot 1 and 2, and I am lot 2. So I was told by the town planner and by the wetlands, I don't know Eric's exact title, wetlands agent, I think he's called, that the only way that I could stop this from being done is to appeal. So I was forced to appeal. That was legal costs, which we had discussed about getting reimbursed, which I still haven't. And as far as you doing something, we appreciated you doing something, but you did something that we were not aware of. And legally, you couldn't have done it, which is why we appealed. Trust me, I would be the first one to be thrilled if it was graded correctly and we never had to discuss this at this meeting again. So although you have done things, they haven't turned, and you have incurred costs, it hasn't turned out to be the quality of work that we can then leave it alone and move on.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Wasn't part of the problem the wetlands required something special back there? Am I wrong?
No, the original plan that Michael had put in, that the homeowners we agreed to, was to put the drainage on the side of lot 1, a storm drain behind lot 2, a storm drain behind lot 2, connect it to lot 3 or directly into the wetlands. That was fine. The meeting I went to from the Wetlands Commission, they said, we want some kind of filtration system, and we want it after, like right before we went to the wetlands. By the time the next wetlands meeting came, which I was not invited to nor knew about, it was passed by Michael Bennett, which, according to Michael Bennett, and you had even said you weren't even fully aware of what it was, that they built a 10-foot trench and a huge rock plunge pool, I think the terminology is, behind our homes, which totally destroyed our backyard, for fertilizer on the hill where there is no fertilizer. And I came to the committee with an appeal to please don't enforce that on the site modification plan. And ultimately, I was told the only way to get it off the books now that it was passed was to appeal. And there were legal costs involved. Had I known that this plan even existed, I would have been at that meeting, like I'm at these meetings, to say, this is not acceptable. And the homeowners, and besides which, there is also a clause in our bylaws that Mr. Massimino gave us that says no work can be done in the backyards of existing homes without board approval. And the board was never consulted on this. And that's what happened. So we do appreciate Michael spending money. We only wish that it would be done so it's a one-time deal and over with. And that hasn't been the case. That's it. Okay? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Just a quick issue on, you know,
Sir, your
possible
name,
side
sir,
issues.
sir,
My
you-
name is
thank you.
Vincent Morris, formerly Lot 10, now 20 Deming Drive, down at the end of the cul-de-sac. You had mentioned sedimentation pond earlier. Is that the same thing as been calling retention basin?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention in that regard that that's right behind our lot, and it's eroding. The you know, I don't know what the proper term is, but there's a rock wall around it, and it's feeling you know, the wear of all the rain we've been having.
Sir.
In any case, the distance between the corner of our foundation and that retention basins is now only about 4 feet. so we're a little sensitive to the issue. We'll be out of town on February 28th. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that among the many other things that'll have to be addressed on any future punch list is concern for bulking up that retention basement. That's all.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask, excuse me, I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
Are you talking the riprap that's around the stones that are around there?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's eroding the riprap that's there to stabilize the bank?
Yeah. You know, it is not as substantial as it was when we moved in a couple of years ago. So we're seeing the effect. And given that we don't have a whole lot of room between the onset of the riprap and the corner of the house, you know, we're being a little less than cavalier about what might happen. So
right.
So we would just like it to be under active consideration with all the other site issues that may have a priority.
Thank you.
Craig, anything else on that? Okay. C,
Okay, so nothing for the town engineer? Okay. Thank you. No, as in, thank you for coming.
thank you.
I guess you can leave.
Thank you.
And you have C, regulating signage.
Right.
and storefront.
Right, this was on the agenda at the last meeting. There was a discussion about the signing regulations and do they address signs in windows? And what I told the commission at the last meeting was that I thought that the previous CEO had a policy, which I did some research, and yes, in fact, he did. It was an unofficial policy because the sign regulations don't say anything about signage in the window. But the previous CEO had sort of worked out an understanding, I guess would be the word used, with the business community, that as long as their window signs didn't block more than 50% of the windows, it wasn't an issue. And that seemed to have been acceptable because I hadn't heard any complaints about it. And so that was the status quo, or that's been the status quo, is that's our procedure, if you will, regarding window signage.
Good procedure.
Excuse me, Mr. Planner, I have a question. I seem to remember there was a signage issue, and I think, can't remember if Mr. Commissioner Payne was on or not, it was CVS, when they had a lot of signs up. And I thought we had, at that point, had determined what.
No, it wasn't about a sign at
Well-
CVS that I talked about.
Well, yes and no. I
This-
do remember that.
If
You're right.
If you let me
This
finish, please, Commissioner. I can't remember if you were on or not when we were talking about the original signs that had blocked up quite a bit of the windows. And I thought we had an agreement or had a decision made that it had to be less than 50%. I know Mike was on there. If you remember what I'm talking about?
It was more about the panels on the side.
Architectural panels.
I thought there was something with the signage too, no?
No, they removed the architectural panels that the TPZ made a condition of approval, and they just took them out, and I had a problem with it, but it is what it is.
But that was a one-shot thing. There was a specific regular requirement for CVS. That was unique to
It was
CVS.
unique to CVS because the CVS was closer to the road, and it was also, I think, a town center zone. There was some regulations in there, so they had specific to the CVS that they had architectural panels on the windows there, and eventually they, what's it been, over 10 years?
Well, yeah, I think what happened was at some point the management forgot, or there was a change in management, and I'll call it the new management did something that violated the approval, which that person probably didn't know about, and so that's how it came to my attention. But that was unique to CVS.
But I thought there was something about the signs too, wasn't there? Or no?
Again, that was a unique to CVS. It was a special permit.
I'm
And
not
that was a condition
I'm
of
not talking the
approval.
architectural panels, I'm talking the signage itself, the window signs is what I seem to remember.
Well, that may be, but again, it was unique to CVS. It
Okay,
was
it only
that
applied to
specific-
CVS and no other store.
Exactly.
Okay,
Right.
that's what I need to know, thank you.
Okay. There's no old business, and petitions for public hearing scheduling?
Okay, we have two items. One is for a new restaurant to be called Tony Baloney 2. They would like to open up in the existing building at 2184 Berlin Turnpike, and so I recommend that the public hearing be scheduled for your next meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay, and the O'Reilly Auto Place wants to have a permit for a freestanding sign. So again, I recommend that also be scheduled for your next meeting.
Good.
Okay?
Question. Just out of, what's the 2184 Berlin Turnpike now? That number doesn't sound familiar.
Okay, it's on the east side. It's a little strip mall. There are four units there. Two of them are now occupied. Someone said there used to be a pizza place there.
Dave's Bagels was also.
Bagels, that's right.
Oh, okay, okay.
Now I know what
Yep.
you're talking
Thank you.
Thank you.
about. That's the west side.
Right on East Robbins Avenue,
Okay, I thought it was east side, but if you say so.
further down.
Yeah.
Those bagels, the west side.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 2086. Oh, okay. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, on the, yeah.
Town planner report?
Okay, there are two items in my report.
For the second Dave's Bagels was.
One, I just wanted to make you aware that we need to tweak the site plan regulations to update the requirements for E&S control. I think the regulations currently reference the 1985 standards, and they need to be changed to reference the 2002 standards. It's kind of housekeeping, but we are required to do it. So I recommend that the commission authorize me to proceed with sending a copy of the proposed amendment to CROG and set the hearing and all that. Okay, good. The other item, the Economic Development Director just asked me to make you aware of a special municipal development workshop that CERC is about to put on for Newington. You'll be receiving notice from the mayor regarding that, but he just wanted me to sort of pass it along to you as a kind of a save the date sort of thing. And that's all I have.
That's all you have.
Oh, just one more thing. The RFP for the POCD, which I showed you a couple of weeks ago, I've been waiting for the finance person for the town of Newington to go through it, to add all the boilerplate that we add to contracts. He recently completed that, and it has now been put out. So it's on the town website, it's on the state jobs list, and it's been sent to the planning community. So I imagine we'll get a number of applications for that project.
Did you get a copy of that in an email to see that?
The final version? Well, it's the same as the one I sent you before, but I can send it to you again. It's 4 pages.
Okay.
Sure, I can do that. And that's all I have.
Communications? Stanley?
No, I've been sending the CROG stuff as I get it, emailing it to everybody. Next meeting is next month, I think it is.
Thank you. Public participation again. Being none. Any remarks by commissioners? Well, this was quick and easy tonight.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Move to second.
Well, my apologies, I didn't, closing remark. Did you have any closing remarks?
Closing remarks
Okay.
to adjourn.